Hi, I'm Lee, and welcome to another episode of Let's Fix Traffic! We're back in Las Vegas, sent in by city builder FezVrasta. Now, we've already had several videos in Las Vegas. In part 1, we relieved gridlock by fixing downtown roundabouts. This revealed problems with our industrial neighborhood, which we worked on in part 2. We also solved rail gridlock problems in part 2, so go back and check that out if you missed it. Now, in a bonus video to part 2, we freed the delivery trucks with a total rebuild of Las Vegas industrial area. Now it's time for part 3, where we'll tackle public transportation and solve city layout problems to make it more effective. So let's take a look at our traffic view here. Here we are with our new industrial zone. We've got really good traffic flow. This street here isn't even a good deep red like some of the streets that we've got downtown still. Our highway is moving very well, which is a long way from where it came from in our first episode. So we're turning again back to our downtown area where we can see a few trouble spots, like right here at this roundabout. That's backing up a little bit here and there. This seems to be perpetually backed up. In this neighborhood, there's really only one way in and out. And then over here is another trouble spot. Sometimes this roundabout causes us trouble, but for the most part, we've just got a lot of congestion through here. It seems like it usually clears out, but we might want to pay attention to that as we go on. But for the most part, downtown is actually moving pretty well, despite some of our problems. Now, our zoning view, I'm going to see if I can get this to come up together. Okay, great. Our zoning view will reveal that we have a lot of high-density commercial and residential. Our residential centers are probably over here. Large swaths through this neighborhood here, as well as over here, here, and here. We've got some commercial development there with the deep blues, and a few offices in these areas as well. Now, having these spread around is really helpful, but at the same time, it's only good if we have them connected, because not every sim is going to be able to work in their own neighborhood. And sims want to be able to travel from their home to get to commercial, to office, depending on where they work. They all need to go to commercial to be able to shop, and in some cases, they need to be able to go over here to the industrial area to work, as well as going to the park. And then we have tourists. They want to go to the different attractions, so we have to pay attention to all of these different desires to move use transportation to move around the city. Another one that we want to pay particular attention to is how our industrial traffic makes its deliveries to our commercial zones. And that's probably a good reason why this neighborhood is really experiencing some serious gridlock getting in and out. So what's really going to help is to optimize the public transportation. As we can see, we've got some good coverage in this neighborhood here with the 3 stations, but we only have 1 station over here and another one over here that doesn't really cover this entire section of the city. And then up here, we've got another big section that's really not served very well. And this up here doesn't have any nearby stations either. So that's a real problem. We've got a lot of really long trips that it would take to walk to a metro station to be able to use the metro. Now, that could be bridged by buses, but buses have a tendency to be a problem. If we look at our transport map, we've got a lot of bus lines that meander around quite a bit. That's a major problem with our transit system here. And then the other problem we have is, if we take a look back at traffic view, we can see that we have trains getting stuck in these stations. There's a couple of reasons for that, but the main one is that we've got a bunch of converging lines. If we go back to our transit map, this blue and this green, they're all trying to share the same station instead of having their own platforms. Like over here, this is actually a better setup right here, because this blue line only uses the one platform and the yellow only uses the other one. So if we can keep those separated, it really makes the trains run much more efficiently. Probably the best example of having way too many lines converging. We only really have, I mean, we did eliminate the line that went out to our industrial neighborhood here, but still, this hub, almost have a little star going on here, is really backed up. Back to the traffic view. Before we eliminated the station that was on the end of this tunnel over here, we had several trains backed up at any given moment coming into this Underhill Square station. So we definitely want to take a look at solving some of those problems so that we don't end up with a lot of trains backing up in the tunnels. We're also going to improve the coverage of our map. Now, another thing I want to point out about the bus lines before we move on is some of these bus lines have stops that are on the side street. That's really not necessary. One stop right here would actually cover these two streets really nicely. In fact, if you're on this particular side of the street right here in the middle, you can't just walk over here and catch the stop. It's actually about twice as long of a walk to go all the way around because Sims can't just jaywalk. They won't do that in the game. So it's important to make sure we put our stops near intersections because, of course, intersections have crosswalks. And the Sims can then cross the street there. Or maybe put them closer to the end of the street. That's another possibility. But in this case, I think that the bus route would be much more efficient if it was just a single stop right there. Eliminate those two stops. But that's really not the main problem that we have here. I just wanted to give you that bit of advice before we went on. These are really huge buildings full of Sims, and they are really going to overwhelm this transit line. If we take a look at how many people are riding this bus, we've got a lot of stations that a lot of stops that are overwhelmed. And this one right here, you'd almost have to have 6 different buses come by to pick up all of the Sims there, and even if 6 buses did come by, they're probably not going to unload enough Sims in order to fit another 30 on there. So we could increase the amount of buses on this line, but with the density in this city, it really doesn't make sense to force everybody to ride a bus. It can work, but we have another problem in Las Vegas that really prevents very efficient bus routing from happening. Surface transportation, if we go back to our traffic view here, surface transportation relies on nice long streets or nice long bits of right-of-way that are nicely connected so that we can go long distances. And in Las Vegas and our downtown, we have a street that's sort of cobbled together here. It's got a few roundabouts on it, and that's okay. But that's really the only east-west road that goes the entire length of the city. This one here almost does it. If we cobble together through these roundabouts and this little kink right here, you could probably run a bus route through there. You could probably run one down here that connects, and another one could meander a little bit over here and then cross the rest of the city here too. But we also have this street, but it doesn't connect into this neighborhood. So we could use buses, but even if we wanted to, this isn't really an ideal setup because we would have to have so many bottlenecks in our system because these blocks are so long and there are so very few opportunities for buses to turn around in order to even form a grid. And we can't really necessarily get the Sims to where they want to go either. If we look at this, it's really difficult to even run buses in these central neighborhoods right here because they'd have to meander their way through in order to connect neighborhoods. So really metros are the best way to go because the bus system is just not going to be able to, buses are just not going to be able to handle the traffic load in here. And metros are going to do a much better job because they run underground. We can make the line straight underground without having to demolish a whole bunch of buildings on the surface. So that's what we'll do here. Now, another problem that we have is a lot of cul-de-sacs. Like I said, we don't have a very complete grid system here. We also have a lot of dead-end streets. And with these dead-end streets, like for example right here, we've got a metro station, but these Sims over here have to go all the way around the block to get to it in either direction, rather than just being able to walk across from right here. So we're going to have to add some walking paths and probably connect some streets. Another example of where that's going to be important is right here. We even have a few streets that line up. These could all be connected, but for whatever reason they're not. So we're going to fill in some of the gaps here and connect some of these neighborhoods so that Sims can at least walk, if not drive through. That will help take advantage of parallel routes, because as I always like to say, alternate direct routes diffuse traffic. And we could definitely use some alternate direct routes to diffuse some of the traffic on this road and over here, so that some of these streets, with some of these streets connecting all the way through, or at least having walking paths, so that we can connect Sims to the rails. So what we're going to do first off is we're going to just eliminate all the bus system completely, and then we're going to rebuild the metro system. One of the reasons why we need to rebuild it is, you might have noticed with the new update for Sunset Harbor, our trains in the metro are longer, so our stations need to be longer. If we compare one of the new metro stations to one of the original ones here, it's much longer. It's probably about another 50% longer than the stations that originally came with City Skylines. And what that's going to do is, in some cases, we'll have trains that come down in here, and another train that wants to go out, but it can't because it's just barely blocked because the platforms aren't long enough. So we're going to have to replace all of these metro stations as they are anyway in order to make this system work. We're also going to eliminate any of the angles that are greater than 45 degrees because while our trains will navigate it, there are some times where that's not desirable and it can actually cause some serious havoc with your trains moving around. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all the bus lines, get rid of all the metro lines, and then demolish the entire metro system. And then we'll come back and I'll show you what we have rebuilt. Okay, so before we go on any further, we're going to just do some obvious fixes here with the transport network. Right here, we've got a perfect example of a really long walk that is really not necessary. If we just connected this with a walking path, that would actually really help move Sims around through this neighborhood. And then this neighborhood is a good example of where walking paths are going to really come in handy. One of the other things I want to show too is that parks can really work for us. Right here, these are walking paths that Sims can use to connect to different parts of this neighborhood. So if we had a road right here, they'd be able to walk right through this park. You can also just extend the network here with just adding more walking paths. So I'm going to take advantage of that. And I'm going to demolish that so I can connect through here. Now we don't need to connect the walking paths all the way to each other. We just need to make sure they come up to at least the ends of streets. Sims can just walk around the end on the sidewalk on the end of the street, and they can just go from path to path. And we'll just add strategic connections to the main street here. This will not really be able to take advantage of getting to this neighborhood over here, but at least we'll be able to connect to the commercial district right there. And this one will actually be able to take advantage of this crosswalk right here. And then this over here, we can extend a few walking paths. Now, if we do it in the right place, like right here, this is the edge of this lot, then we don't have to worry about demolishing quite as much. We can have a much larger space for a new building to pop up. Now here's an example of something that we really don't have to have if we just build the street grid a little bit better. We've got a fire station here, another one here, and here, and it's really sort of unnecessary. Actually, we could probably get rid of both of these. We'll leave this alone, but we're going to take this one out for the time being, because then we can extend this street and connect it right over here. That may take some of the stress off of this road up here by allowing another street to get to that roundabout, another area here. Oh, and also, since we got rid of the buses, we don't really need this bus depot. Besides that, we have another one right over here. Anyway, I'm going to turn that off to save money, since we aren't going to be using buses for the time being. That'll allow us to access a little more real estate here. And I'm going to fill in some of this neighborhood with more development, since we'll lose a little bit with our demolition. Now, again, Sims can't cross a crosswalk, so I'm going to use a little bit of a cheat here. It's not really a cheat. You can do this even in the vanilla game. I'm going to upgrade that segment to have a different style of street that will force me to have a crosswalk right there. So now I'm going to use Traffic Manager President Edition to eliminate stops I don't need and to make sure cars don't have to stop on their way through. Now here are a couple of dead-end streets where we really need walking paths to connect. We can get away without adding one here because we do have a street there that connects. Now here's another area where we're going to add some paths. I have to move this medical clinic, and then I'm going to add crosswalks on that street because it's just a little bit more of a walk than I'd like the Sims to have to take. This neighborhood here is very disconnected. A long street here, and it's really only possible to get out of the neighborhood if you go to this roundabout over here to this intersection, which is just going to force you to go back up to this roundabout. So let's just add in a couple of paths to connect this. Now this street actually connects over through the park right here from the looks. Well, let's just make sure. And then we're going to add one here so that they can get up to the roundabout. Now, these streets here, especially with the congestion right here going to the roundabout, I'd really like to extend them to give them another outlet, but instead I'm just going to go ahead and build a walking path right here. Now this neighborhood over here, we could extend this street so that it connects to these into this one, and then we can connect that one in. And that will make that neighborhood much more connected, much more accessible. We won't have the one-way in right here and all the dead-end streets over here and another dead end over here. So that'll actually make it a lot easier to take advantage of the university. Unfortunately, it's going to cost us a couple of big buildings through here, but that'll be okay. We'll zone to make up for it. Now right here, these two streets are also dead ends. I'd like to extend and connect up here, so what I'm going to do is I don't want to bring this out too far, or the quay, or key, or however you say it, the levee, actually, this is a levee, will interfere. This will prevent me, this will save me from having to demolish. Well, I won't be demolishing, and I won't have to worry about it how I extend this street. And then I just push it right up there, and then I have a crosswalk there for my walking path. So that neighborhood's much better connected. I think this takes care of our walking paths, except for over here we could use one. And we'll connect over here to this roundabout in this neighborhood. And these over here need to be connected for sure. We'll connect these over to the residential street, so it'll be a short walk, or at least some of the sims. And we'll just take a look. Okay, right here we need to add another path, and we'll fill in some zoning. Add some offices. I don't know what's wrong with this over here. I'm just going to rebuild that and fill in the zoning so we don't have any dead spots like we do right now. Whoopsies. Just make that office. Demolish some buildings to make sure they grow back and take up the whole space. I think that pretty well covers it. So now let's go ahead and put in our metro stations. Now, I'm going to have 3 different lines, and they're going to cross a lot. I'll show you how that helps us later on. It'll run across the top, then back down, and then out here to our industrial area, and then we'll have another one that runs around here, goes across, again to our industrial area, and then another one that will run down here and go across. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put in those stations. I've added a few. Now, one of the problems we had was we had at our hub points, we had a lot of convergence going on with our trains. They were all trying to use the same 2 platforms. I've added some custom assets that are made for the update that came with Sunset Harbor. So we'll have a few hub stations. These platforms do not connect, but they do cross. So that's really going to come in handy here. I'm going to build one right here in the center of our city, just like we had before. I don't think it'll let me use the corner, so I'm just going to use move it to force it into the corner. So now I have a hub here. I want a hub over here by this roundabout. Looks like I forgot to turn Anarchy off. There we go. Now I can see it. And I'm going to need another crossing station up here in this neighborhood. I'm going to have 2 lines there. So the standard stations sometimes don't work because we get the slope too steep warnings. And that is easily overcome by these deeper platforms. This one is 24 meters deep instead of the standard 12. And then this one is 36 meters deep, so that's really handy if you have to go under a river or there's a really big hill and you want to even out the grade a little bit. So I want to have a station right here by my airport that's very accessible. I want one next to this train station so that transfers are easy. Now this neighborhood here is really well connected, but I still want to have a station down here so that it'll service this neighborhood to the south, to the bottom here. That will give a nice short walk for most of my sims. A few of them have a longer walk closer to the park, but that's okay. We should be good. So now I'm going to add a station over here. I have several landmarks right in here. I want to make sure that even though it's kind of close to one of the stations, that it's more convenient than it otherwise would be, since these can generate a lot of tourist traffic. All right, so now I've got a line that goes across the top of my city. That station over there is the only one that takes intercity trains, so I want to have another transfer point here close by, so I'll put a station there. And I'll need another station over here in this end of the neighborhood. I'm not sure if an angle will quite line up the way I want it to with the next station down the line. Doesn't look like it, so I'm going to go with a standard station over here and just place it right here at this intersection. Zone in, fill that up. I'm going to add a walking path because I missed a spot here. There's a dead-end street. In order to take full advantage of the metro station that's here, I definitely want to have a walking path that connects that street. Let me just demolish a few of these buildings, rezone this a little bit so that the real estate will get used. Alright, so I've got a line across the top, and now I need another station over here in this area since there are a couple of landmarks, and I want to make sure that those are well connected. That'll take me down by my hub. And now I need a couple of stations over here in this neighborhood. I want one right here at the corner, and another one down here by this university and the art museum and the library. So that'll connect those buildings up really well. And I need another cross station right here to make sure the aquarium and the hospital here are served pretty well. That'll be good. Want to have a station there, but I want one here too. There's a walking path that connects those two streets already, so that's good. And we'll just add this station right here near this roundabout, although not right on it. There we go. Alright, so now we've got our stations. All I have to do is connect them. Maybe we'll use straight sections in some places, but in other places, like right here, I want to use the angled. Maybe use curve. That is a good area right there that I can just connect right there to that existing section that goes under the lake. This one's a little weird, but we'll connect that up. Use a straight section there and there. And have to use a little bit of a curve there. Alright, so here is a case where I want to make sure that I can use one platform on one line and one on the other one. So what I'm going to do is make sure I have a 45-degree angle here as I come out That should keep the trains from getting in each other's way as they use the platform there. So we have our 3 lines constructed through downtown. Now let's add some stations out here. We'll start by putting one right here next to Chirpex for our tourists. And then these will help our workers out. Alright, so we're connected. Now I just have to lay in the lines. Now as I connect, I'm just going to put a stop in every single station that I go by on this line. Now when I get to the end of the line here, I want to make sure that I don't use the near platform. I want to use the far platform, so I'll move it over and get that. If it doesn't automatically pick it for you, the advanced stop selection mod really helps. Also with some of these cross stations, I have to use the advanced stop selection mod. You just hold down the shift key and hover over where you want to put the stop, and it goes where you want it. Now it is possible to get the stop that you want selected using just the vanilla game without the advanced stop selection mod, but it's a whole lot easier. It makes it so simple. Now I'll put the other line in, next one. Just go to every single station along the line and make sure that we've got a stop. And then we want to make sure that uses the other platform so it doesn't conflict with the other line. We don't have to worry about trains getting stuck waiting on trains that aren't even on their line. And that one's done. Last line. And we're done. So now I'm just going to go ahead and add some colors here so we can tell the lines apart. So now we have our 3 metro lines, a red line, a blue line, and a green line. They all cross several times. That allows Sims at single stop stations like this one over here, for example, to go pretty easily to a stop like over here with just one transfer. You can transfer the blue line here, and they can transfer to the red line here. You can transfer the blue line over here. And the red line has a couple of transfer points with the green and the blue. So basically anybody can get to work, get to shop, get home, go to the park, and all they have to do is at most make one transfer in most cases. So it's a pretty efficient setup for a transit system, and one I highly recommend. And that's why I have it structured the way I do. It's very simple. If you're doing something very complicated, then chances are you're doing something that's not going to help you a whole lot. Every time I've tried to do anything complicated, it always ends up worse off for me than if I take it all apart and rebuild it much more simply. So that's why I've done here with this transit system. So we don't have too much complexity. It does cost a bit, but I think it'll be worth it in the end. So now let's go ahead, look at the traffic view and see if this alleviates any traffic problems and what do we have left to solve. We'll start the clock and speed things up. So let's check in and see how our transit system is performing. Oh, well, we've got a lot more metro traffic going on here. Let's see if we have enough trains. Okay. We've got 5 trains on this line and a lot of stops. All our trains are almost all full. It looks like we probably need more trains on this line, so I'm going to go up to 300%, which is going to take us from 5 to 14. Let's take a look at the red line. Yeah, we're in the same boat here. It would take 3 trains to clear that station, and then there's one that takes 2 trains just about to clear. So let's go up to 300 here too. And then the green line. Similar situation. Actually, definitely need more trains over there. Let's go 350 here. I really think we're going to need them. 11 trains there is going to work out much better. And let's see what's going on with our passenger train. Okay, so we've got some pretty full trains going on through here still. Ridership might be going down, though. So we'll have to check that out as time goes on, see what that does. Take a look at our traffic view here again. It's going to take a little while for our Sims to get used to the new metro system and start taking it to get around town. But it does look like some of our trouble spots have dissipated a little bit. I can't help but think that a traffic light would work well here. So I'm going to add that and put in some stop signs to prioritize the main road here. Add a traffic light there, put a couple more stop signs in, and check my lane arrows to make sure I have a dedicated rights and lefts on the 6-lane road where they make sense. And I'm going to make that a dedicated left turn lane since that narrows anyway right there. And this intersection here, make that a dedicated left turn. Now let's look at our walking paths and see if they're getting used. Yes, they are. In fact, we see the walking paths through the park are actually getting used quite a bit more too. So these walking paths really make a huge difference. Anytime a sim walks, that means he's not driving, and he might not even be taking up public transportation, so that'll save us money too. That station is extremely busy. Let's see some of our other walking paths and see if they're getting used. Yes, some of our walking paths are as busy as our streets, maybe even busier. That's what we love to see. How about over here? Oh yeah. That's very good. That area through there has gotten a little better. That area is still a little congested. And this is starting to work a lot better with that traffic light. So let's take a look at our transit routes then. Oh, looks like we've got a lot more riders. Let's check out the blue line here. That's a pretty full station. And that train is full. It's not looking so good. Right here, we've got a couple other stations. Yeah, we definitely need to increase. Let's go to 400% on this one. There we go. Let's check out the red line. And that's got a busy station on it, but just one. Let's see if that catches up. This one right here. It's looking a little better. Well, it looks like it might work out. We'll just leave this one alone. I think let's take out the green line. And that one's got that's got a pretty busy station on it. How are we doing on the rest of the line here? Got a lot of full trains. I don't think that's going to get better. No, I think what we'll do is add that up to 400% too. Now something else we can see is our car trips saved are 100%. Let's look at some of the other lines. 100% on that one. Blue line, 100%. Hey, that's great. So our transit system is really getting heavy use. We have almost 3,500 residents and over 700 tourists using our transit system now. A lot of that is on our metro. Let's take a look at our train traffic now. That has dropped off quite a bit. So let's go down to 74%. So it looks like our transit system is mostly caught up to our Sims demands. Let's see if we have any trouble spots that we could alleviate. That right there is working okay, but we see backup forming on the roundabout. That's not something we really want to see. And the reason why that is happening, let's check out our routes view. So we have a lot of traffic coming onto these 3 roads, and it's coming all the way over here. It's not going through the roundabout for some reason. It seems like it's all going through here. Now, I'm not sure if there's something wrong with this roundabout. It might be. Let's just demolish the entire thing and rebuild it then. Looks like it's not completely round. So I'll fix that. Looks like I might have to move that ramp a little bit. Connect that at a right angle. Oops. There we go. There we go. Now just set up all the turn lanes, junction restrictions, and the priority signs. Yeah, the roundabout seems to be getting used a whole lot more often than it did before. Now I need to take out the parking on the roundabout. Yeah, that actually seems to be getting traffic now. I don't know why it wasn't before. I'm going to ban parking in a couple of spots here real quick. Well, that's good. So let's see if that alleviates traffic any. It looks like we still have a little bit of a problem there and there. Let's see where our Sims are trying to go. So it looks like some of them are trying to go across town here, or come from across town. So it's creating quite a bottleneck here. And in this area here, we have the same problem. So once again, since alternate routes diffuse traffic, I'm going to diffuse traffic by creating some alternate routes. This walking path is nice and everything, but it looks like we could probably use a more straight connection so that cars don't have to come all the way down here and come back up. We could probably use a couple more lanes here in order to get traffic in and out of this neighborhood. Although it's working okay, it does look a little bit bottlenecked right there. Up here, this is working quite a little bit. It's working a little bit better. But I really feel like if this street connected all the way across, that would certainly simplify things. Let's take a look at our routes again and just see what our Sims are doing. It definitely looks like we would benefit from connecting those roads. It would eliminate some bottlenecks. Make those 4 lanes. And we'll set up our turn lanes to make sure we take advantage of the roundabout. It is possible that some of our Sims would want to turn right and go down here. that would be okay. I don't want them turning left because I'd rather them go through the roundabout and come back through. I don't think I want anybody... I don't think I want anybody turning left here either. We'll let that go right now and see what happens. So that will do there, and then here I need to move a few things around. Move this university over here temporarily, and this elementary school over here, and just draw that road straight in right across there to that elbow. Upgrade that to make it consistent, and I'll check my lane arrows out. Looks like I can just go with a left turn lane there. I don't think too many people will be going straight through. And I need to make sure that I have a left turn lane there and make that other lane a straight through as well as right turn. And just check out my turn lanes here and just check out my junctions. I think I need traffic lights there, add a stop sign, and I think I'll use a stop sign there too. We look at our traffic view here. That street goes through, but it doesn't connect to this one. So rather than having them zigzag and cause more bottlenecks, I'm going to move this street so that it connects right here. There we go. Now let's just check out our junctions, set up our stop signs, traffic light there, stop signs, traffic light there too. I think stop signs down here will do. So that should do it. Now we have a street that goes all the way from one side of town to the other, literally. And we've got another one here that almost does it. And this bridges to this other street. So that'll actually add more through streets to get across town. That area is functioning really well with the 4-lane road. But there's one thing I want to be conscious of. When we put these 4-lane roads in, they come out at 50 kilometers per hour, but I want to set those to 40 in this case just because it won't attract as much traffic to that road. I just want to use the turn lanes here. Now let's check out this area. It looks like that road in the center is pretty busy. Let's see if it clears up. It doesn't seem to be getting any better, so let's add a little more capacity here with a 4-lane road. And I'll set my left turn lanes here to have dedicated left turns instead of dedicated rights. And we'll see if that clears up a little more. Looks a little better, but yeah, looks like it's working okay. We could probably extend it a little bit just to get that to clear out a little better. Now it's working much better. All right, so what's going on over here? We got a lot of left turn traffic. What's this about? Looks like we could add another lane for left turns. So let's have 2 left turn lanes right here on this stretch. Upgrade that, change the lane configuration, and the Sims don't look like they can figure this out too well on their own. I might need a timed traffic light. Let's go ahead and do that. I'll give these people a short left. Cycle. Three seconds. Then I'll add 6 seconds more for the other side to continue turning left. And then add a cycle where we have protected straight throughs. And then the cross street for 3 to 9 seconds. Let's see how it goes. It doesn't seem to be working out. That left lane on the one street. Just seems to be building. What's up with that? Looks like the time traffic lights, right? Ah, it's the air turn arrow. Let me change that. Give a protected left turn lane. Let's see how that goes now. That's working a lot better. Do have a bit of a bottleneck with a straight through lane though. But it looks like it's catching up. Not a whole lot of straight through traffic going in the other direction though, so I almost feel like we should maybe reconfigure this traffic light to have each side go one at a time on the left and the right. Well, it's not perfect, but it is moving much better than it was before. Now down here, that's moving pretty well. This area is backing up again. So let's add some turn lanes. And we'll set up the lane arrows to separate lefts and rights. So that area is still working well. This is alleviated. And this is working okay. This neighborhood up here looks good for the most part. This neighborhood over here looks like everything's moving okay except for there's a huge mess right here. Well, it looks like we're going to have to extend these roads. So I'm just going to draw these in right here. Extend all three of those, and then I'm going to get rid of the walking path and fix the zoning. There we go. Okay, that's really jammed up right there. Not sure why that's happening. But I think one of the things we could do to alleviate traffic through there is build a parallel route. We could start with this roundabout and just build it all the way up here and try to go as far up as we can before we run into buildings. Oh, looks like I have to move this school. I forgot to put my university back. Let me do that. Get my school put back. There we go. Now I can finish that road. And put my school back. Roughly. I fix the zones and the buildings through here to maximize the real estate. And set up my stop signs to prioritize this road since it's going to be a big collector road now. Fix the roundabout. Alright, so that's not working out the way I want it to. Looks like some cars are going in there to bypass the roundabout. We really don't want that. So I'm going to use a little trick here. With the lane arrows. Right now we've got lane arrows allowing turns. If I ban those turns, then all those cars will go away. Now what's cool is there is a police station right here. When a police car, now all the cars, all the regular vehicles will go up here and get out of that neighborhood there instead of jamming up a roundabout. But our emergency traffic, as you'll see here momentarily, our emergency traffic is able to use that intersection despite the ban on turns there. So we've made it so that traffic can get in and not block up the roundabout trying to get out. Now it looks like we could use a traffic light up here. I'm going to add some stop signs too. Now let's see what our traffic looks like. Oh, that's so much better. That's actually not red anymore for the first time. And the roundabout seems to be functioning a lot more smoothly. Let's ban parking in a few spots here. Just improve traffic flow. Alright, so that's working well. These are still functioning well. We don't have any serious traffic problems in this part of town. We've always got traffic from the freight terminal, but it's not too bad. That intersection is functioning well, as is that one. These ones are working really well. And this is still a little congested for my liking. So we're going to do something about that. Actually, let's see where our traffic is trying to go first. So a lot of it's coming from the highway and trying to get in here. Some of it is even coming from the other direction. And a lot of it's trying to go out that way too. So also good amount of it's going and coming from over here in this part of the city. So we could actually eliminate some of the traffic that's trying to go out that one lone entrance there. So I'll just extend that road out there, move this school, and then put it back right there next to the roundabout. Add a few stop signs in to prioritize traffic. Then fix my roundabout. So we've got a good backup going on right there. Hopefully that will clear out with a little escape valve that we've built here. And that's still pretty congested. So let's keep an eye on this and just see if it clears out. So the roundabout seems to have cleared out finally here. Over here, everything seems to be working fairly well. Got a little bit of congestion right here because of the traffic light. But it doesn't look too bad. Now, something we could do to try to alleviate traffic even more. Some of our cims might be trying to get over to this part of town. Let's see if that's the case. Yes, they are. So we could actually build another road that connects through here. And I could probably extend this one here, yes. Set up some stop signs. Prioritize traffic. So now we've got a parallel street that, whoops. So we've got a parallel street that runs through here that should take a little traffic off of this roundabout in this area through here. And another parallel street right here that will allow a little bit of shortcutting to get around that roundabout. Just another alternate route to help disperse traffic a little bit. It seems to be working really well. I am not seeing a bunch of congestion on this roundabout right now. Are seeing more traffic over here. But it looks like it's working okay. I could probably benefit from turn lane right here. So let's widen that. And make it so we have one left turn lane and one right turn lane. That should alleviate that traffic just a bit. Looks like I could probably benefit from a longer cycle over here. In fact, let's just simplify this so we only have 3 cycles where we have it, each side go one at a time. I think that'll clear out better. It does seem to be working. That's working really well. An intersection seems to be improving. I'm going to add a traffic light over here to get that to go a little more smoothly. Now, since we have one side going at a time, I'm going to change that to be a straight through and a left turn lane. Hopefully this will clear out here. Seems to be working really well now. Let's check out the rest of the city, make sure we don't have any serious problems. Looks like things are moving pretty well. Our little bypass roads are working out really well. We've got a lot of traffic moving around through this neighborhood, which is a good thing that we connected these streets or we'd have a lot of bottlenecks. And over here in our industrial area, things are still moving really well. This area is always going to have trouble, it looks like. Not really sure there's a whole lot we can do about it. It is functioning. That's the important thing. We do have good traffic flow. It's just very, very congested. But it's a city. So what do you expect? We're going to have a lot of traffic. But I think we've done a lot to improve the traffic that we do have. Everything is moving. Our transit system seems to be performing nicely. Let's take one last look at that. We're over 3,600 residents here. It doesn't look like we have any backed up stops. And we do have a few full trains on the blue line. Red line is functioning really well. In fact, so well. I almost think we should probably take some cars off of it, some trains off. Let's back up to 250 here. Now let's check out the green line. We've got some busy stops and some full trains. Let's see if they'll clear it. Might catch up. Well, it looks like it's working out okay after all. I don't think I really need to add anything. Sometimes you just have to wait for the thing to catch up. Let's look at the red line again here. Alright, so this might not have been a good idea to cut service on this route, because now we have a station that's really got a lot of passengers waiting. So let's go ahead and bump that back up to 300%. Put those trains back on the tracks. And let's check out the blue line. We've got pretty good on most of these stations, but this one here is getting backed up a bit. Let's see if it catches up. That doesn't look like it's going to do it. So let's put this up to 425 and a couple more trains. That'll help us keep up with the demand here. And let's check out our train line. How's that doing? It's not doing a whole lot, so oh well. That's to be expected since the blue line basically bypassed it. But these train stations don't go into don't go into the heart of the city, so they're not as useful as the metro stops. So that's a huge improvement on Las Vegas. We had very dysfunctional traffic flow. We had no way out of some industrial neighborhoods that we fixed in part 2. And our roundabouts were really jammed up in part 1. Now we've freed up pretty much the entire city. Everything is moving. It's not like anything is completely gridlocked. There's no volume building anywhere. So I would say that this is a success, especially since we've got a really functional transit system that is covering almost all of the city. The Sims don't mind the walk. They walk pretty far for a rapid transit like Metro. And in a dense city like this, I don't really see any other option but to use Metro. Let's take a look at the budget and see where we are on that, on our transit budget. Our Metro system is pretty expensive. It looks like it's actually not doing too bad. I think we have free public transportation turned on, so all of it is costing us money. But I really say that the Metro system is probably doing pretty well at giving us a good bang for our buck. So, do you have any questions? If so, please leave them in the comments section. And if you learned something, or you think you might learn something on the next video, please subscribe. Thanks so much. And we'll be back with another video here, either a city fix, or it will be the start of a brand new city. We'll do another More Money, Less Traffic series. But for now, so long from Las Vegas.